Down.
All right, get it.
On May 2nd, 2011, the world came to a standstill. A strategically planned operation by American forces managed to put an end to the life of Osama Bin Laden, the most dangerous and wanted man on the planet. The figure who had personified terror for more than a decade was finally killed by an elite American group in a mission worthy of an action movie. The news traveled around the world, leaving a clear message. No terrorist leader is beyond the reach of American forces. The assassination of bin Laden meant the closing of one of the darkest chapters in the history of global terrorism. However, he was not the only terrorist leader who experienced firsthand the power of Uncle Sam's men. In recent decades, other criminals considered among the most brutal and feared in the world, such as Ayman al-Zawahiri and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, were eliminated in operations that required audacity, millimeter precision, and a bulletproof body. In this new military force video, we'll explore all about the missions to hunt down and capture the most bloodthirsty terrorists of the 21st century. Get ready for an adrenaline-filled and deadly delivery. Let's get started. The U.S. fight against terrorism has been long and devastating. In carrying it out, intelligence, espionage, and international collaboration played crucial roles. One of the primary targets in this relentless pursuit was Osama bin Laden. His name became synonymous with terrorism after the attacks of September 11, 2001, which claimed nearly 3,000 lives in a devastating attack that left an indelible mark on American and world history. For nearly a decade, bin Laden was able to move about like a ghost, surviving on the help of loyal followers in a series of safe houses, making attempts to capture or kill him difficult. The terrorist leader had taken refuge in a border area between Afghanistan and Pakistan, a challenging landscape for his pursuers and home to a tribal culture hostile to the American presence. However, due to the war in Afghanistan, which began on October 7, 2001, the U.S. government was investing vast resources in intelligence. Through intercepted communications, they obtained crucial information about bin Laden's whereabouts. This led them to the compound in Pakistan. It was a 3-story walled structure with high security, which aroused suspicion among intelligence analysts. After months of tracking and surveillance, the CIA, together with the SEAL's Special Operations Team, confirmed what they suspected. It was Osama bin Laden's new hideout. They quickly began a mission that would change the course of history.
"11 p.m. in Jalalabad, Afghanistan. It's a moonless night. 2 Black Hawk helicopters take off from a US airbase. Each is carrying 12 members of Navy SEALs Team 6. The operation to get Osama bin Laden, codenamed Neptune Spear, is finally underway.
On the night of May 1st, 2011, 2 Black Hawk helicopters flew over the skies of Afghanistan. The SEAL team on board knew that the mission they had embarked on had many global implications, and because of that, it was planned and executed with a scalpel.
You're going to have weather radar, so you can detect storms or electrical storms that could be on the horizon. You're going to have weapons, and these weapons are generally not found in the conventional Army inventory. So these are specifically designed to get onto an objective.
The air was thick with tension, as every member of the team knew that capturing or neutralizing bin Laden himself was not just a blow against Al-Qaeda, but a message that America would never surrender to terrorism. Under the cover of darkness, the SEALs stealthily descended near the compound, ready to meet any challenge. But the first obstacle arose sooner than anticipated. A guard dog broke the silence with a deafening bark, alerting the compound's occupants. The tension was palpable, but this was no ordinary team. They were trained for the unthinkable. In the blink of an eye, the dog was neutralized, leaving only the echo of its warning in the air. They advanced with precision, forcing entry into the first room only to find it empty. Their hearts pounded, adrenaline taking over their bodies. They knew that behind the next few doors could lie the most feared man in the world. The American commandos advanced through the complex with calculated and lethal movements. Each step was perfectly synchronized, like a deadly dance with the shadows. The lights of their infrared visors swept the dark corners, looking for any sign of resistance. The team knew that every second counted. Their target could flee, resist, or even detonate explosives at any moment. As they reached the central staircase of the complex, they encountered the first sign of life. An armed guard emerged from a side door, but he had no time to react. With a well-aimed shot, he was neutralized by the SEALs before he could raise the alarm. Uncle Sam's men continued up, floor by floor, checking each room in search of their main target. Behind each open door, the tension increased. They found empty rooms, frightened women and children, or personal items that indicated that they were not far from their prey. On the top floor, a closed door caught their attention. It could be the place where Osama Bin Laden was hiding. The SEALs prepared for the worst: explosives, snipers, or a direct confrontation. But nothing stopped them. With a controlled explosion, they broke down the door and entered with weapons raised. There he was, in a bedroom with his family nearby. Bin Laden was emaciated from years of hiding. He tried to move, but he didn't have time. In a matter of seconds, it was over. A shot to the chest and another to the head sealed the fate of the most wanted man in the world. The team secured the area while they confirmed his identity. The mission was complete, but the feeling was surreal. In less than 40 minutes, they had ended a hunt that spanned a decade. On the flight home, the air was thick with excitement and relief. What many believed impossible had happened. The news of Osama bin Laden's death spread quickly, and the world's reaction was jubilant. However, tension and fear of retaliation loomed. US forces knew all too well that one leader removed did not mean the end of the threat. The Al-Qaeda monster was still very much alive. Just a decade after bin Laden was eliminated, the world would be confronted with another iconic figure of terror, Ayman al-Zawahiri. One of the founders of the organization and mastermind behind several attacks, al-Zawahiri's role in the September 11, 2001 attack and other acts of international violence made him one of the most wanted terrorists in the world.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Since bin Laden's death, al-Zawahiri was widely believed to have become increasingly cautious, spending his days hiding in various locations, minimizing contacts to avoid capture. For years, his whereabouts remained a mystery. However, his reign would finally end on July 31st, 2022. US intelligence began collecting clues about his location, which apparently pointed to Kabul, Afghanistan. They quickly coordinated a highly complex mission. Everything had to be carried out in such a way that al-Zawahiri would have no chance of escape. To accomplish this, they made use of drones that allowed them to carry out precise attacks without the risk of US troops being on the ground.
Accuracy from a drone flying at 50,000 feet. The missiles don't explode. Instead, they're equipped with 6 super sharp rotating blades that can cut through concrete.
Early on the morning of the 31st, drones began to fly over the area where al-Zawahiri had been sighted. It was a sweltering, sun-filled summer in Kabul, and the terrorist leader, who never realized his time was almost up, was on the balcony of a building. The moment was perfect for the operators of the unmanned vehicles to launch an attack. The result was as lethal as it was precise. 2 Hellfire missiles streaked through the air with relentless speed and a clear target. Without causing massive explosions or leaving a trail of collateral destruction, they hit directly, finishing off the terrorist leader in an instant. A surgical, cold, and devastating execution designed to end years of terror in the blink of an eye. President Joe Biden was informed of the operation almost immediately. Images of the attack quickly went viral. Like the death of bin Laden, the killing of al-Zawahiri was seen as a relief in many quarters.
Al-Zawahiri chose his own path, and it was his own end, because that's how he thought. A man who chose destruction, he got his punishment.
Fur killing of al-Zawahiri closed a chapter in Al-Qaeda's history, but raised a troubling question. Who would replace him? Extremist networks had learned to adapt, and while the death of leaders was a blow, there were always others ready to fill the void. The fight against terrorism, therefore, would be a continuing battle against radical ideologies and the violence they unleash. If Osama Bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri were figures representing Al-Qaeda, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was the face of a new era in extremism. As the leader of the Islamic State, or ISIS, he had accomplished something his predecessors never did. He had declared himself caliph of a vast territory spanning large swaths of Iraq and Syria. His rise to power was meteoric, and his organization became synonymous with extreme brutality, planning public executions and acts of violence that horrified the entire world. He was soon branded a dangerous terrorist by the United States and set out to hunt him down. Al-Baghdadi had proven to be a shrewd strategist, using social media effectively to recruit thousands of fighters, mostly amid regional unrest and civil destabilization in Syria. The more al-Baghdadi expanded, the more the world became aware of the threat posed by ISIS. Indeed, the fight against the Islamic State gained momentum in 2015, when international coalitions and local forces joined forces to dismantle its territorial hold and began operations to hunt al-Baghdadi down. However, the leader managed to evade capture through a network of tunnels and safe houses in the Syrian desert. American forces were hot on his trail, but despite a series of attempts to eliminate him, the terrorist was always one step ahead, like a ghost in the dark.
No matter how many times you rehearse, no matter how realistic your preparation has been, you know that no plan completely survives execution. You know conditions on the target will always be somewhat different from what you prepared and trained for.
On October 27, 2019, al-Baghdadi's luck changed. After a series of operations and with precise information about his location, the mission to capture him was launched. They knew that he had taken refuge in a cave in the province of Idlib, a stronghold of ISIS and other rebel groups. The United States Special Forces, together with local allies, prepared an assault on that place that until then the terrorist leader had considered a safe haven. The operation was fast and brutal. The agents assaulted the cave facing resistance from the guards who were guarding al-Baghdadi. At that critical moment, the cornered terrorist leader took a desperate measure. To avoid being captured, he decided to resort to a last resort. He blew himself up with a suicide vest that he was wearing, along with his 3 children in a fearful act. The echo of the explosion was lost in the darkness, signaling that al-Baghdadi's desperate end had come, and with it the fall of the empire of terror that had haunted millions of people. The news of his death generated a mix of anger and skepticism.
He died like a coward. He was whimpering, screaming, and crying. And frankly, I think it's something that should be brought out.
The hunt for and killing of Osama Bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi represent defining moments in America's war on terror. Each of these men and their organization left a trail of blood and tears at every turn. Their deaths marked important victories, but the battle is far from over. The legacy of terrorism lives on, and its mantle of terror continues to spread. Now, after having seen the most spectacular terrorist elimination operations in history, it is time to say goodbye. Thank you very much for staying with us until the end. We look forward to seeing you in our next military force video.